Belly fat, facial hair, high blood sugars, oh my! This one is for my sisters, aka folks with PCOS. Hey everyone, I'm Abby Sharp. Welcome to Abby's Kitchen. In today's video, we're going to be going over the myths and facts about what to eat with PCOS, particularly as it relates to persistent challenges with losing weight. Now, a quick thank you to my colleague Eric Davis, who assisted in the research for the script. Erin is an RD who specializes in insulin resistance and diabetes, so definitely check out her links below if you're looking for some one-on-one support. Also, for simplicity in speech, I am using gendered language here, aka women with PCOS at times, even though I acknowledge that there are folks with uteruses who don't identify as such. Okay, let me hop in here super quick to tell you about my sponsor today, Trade Coffee. As you guys know, I'm obsessed with coffee. It's basically a core part of my self-care ritual. So I'm always looking for new brands and varieties to switch up my routine. If you guys haven't heard about Trade Coffee, they're a specialty coffee marketplace that matches you with the best coffees from roasters across America. They've built relationships with about 60 different coffee roasters whose coffee is roasted to order and then shipped within 48 hours right to your door. It's like quite an amazing system. The way it works is you take a short quiz to share your preferences, and then Trade matches you with the best options. Whether you're into hot, iced, dark, decaf, cold brew, or espresso, they have it all. I am drinking a lot of iced coffee now that we're officially in summer, and Trade is definitely my go-to. They offer all-in-one kits to get started making iced coffee or cold brew at home, ready-to-drink cans, and a monthly plan of rotating coffees that are amazing over ice. So I've been drinking Parlor Coffee's cold brew, and it is so smooth. It is so delicious. I can literally just drink it as is. And I'm also loving the Tips Up Tahoe French roast. If you don't like a really bitter coffee, this one is a lot less bitter and a little more sweet. So if you want to try out Trade yourself, check out the link in bio and use my promo code drinktrade.com/Abby to shop their full cold coffee collection. Plus, you can subscribe today and save 30% off of your first order at drinktrade.com/Abby. Super quick PCOS 101. Polycystic ovary syndrome, or PCOS, is a condition where small fluid-filled sacs or cysts containing immature eggs or follicles surround the outer edge of the ovaries. The main symptoms of PCOS include irregular or absent periods, excessive hair growth on face or body, alopecia or thinning hair at the top of the head, acne, weight gain, particularly the more dangerous visceral belly fat, and infertility. Now, PCOS is actually the leading cause of female infertility, with about 50% of sisters having prediabetes or diabetes and up to 88% being obese. So why is it so damn hard to lose weight with PCOS? Honestly, folks, it is not in your head. It feels to me like every single time I see like a weight loss tip video online, it's accompanied by a lot of women in the comment section being like, yeah, if I eat more than 1,000 calories, I will gain weight thanks to PCOS. Or I just look at food and I gain weight with PCOS. And even though a lot of gym bros will try to gaslight these women into believing that they're just not trying hard enough or they haven't counted their calories properly, the reality is they do have an uphill battle at hand. On average, women with PCOS gain 2.6 kilograms over 10 years more than those without PCOS, largely thanks to the complex interplay of hormonal imbalances, metabolic issues, and mental health. So first of all, hormonally, PCOS is characterized by high androgen hormones, aka testosterone. These androgen hormones interfere with the action of insulin, which increases insulin resistance, so your blood sugars and your insulin levels stay high. Now, chronically elevated blood sugars and insulin can increase fat storage, which ultimately makes weight loss a lot more difficult. Unfortunately, this is kind of like a chicken and the egg situation, because carrying excess fat, particularly that visceral belly fat, also interferes with insulin signaling, which then worsens insulin resistance. So there's a bit of like a vicious cycle where insulin resistance causes excess body fat, and excess fat exacerbates the insulin resistance. The second consideration is that insulin resistance can also increase cravings for high carbohydrate and high sugar foods, which can increase calorie intake and therefore weight. The third reason is that research shows that women with PCOS tend to actually have slower metabolisms than those without PCOS, which of course will make staying in a calorie deficit much harder. And the fourth reason is that PCOS is associated with an increased risk of emotional eating, addictive eating, night eating, and eating disorders like binge eating disorder and bulimia, all of which play a massive role in increasing their risk of obesity. Not surprisingly, lose weight is basically first-line treatment in a lot of circles for PCOS, since reducing fat, again, particularly that visceral fat, can potentially help improve symptoms. So for example, fat loss can help reduce your risk of diabetes, with studies showing that for every percentage of total body weight loss, you can reduce your hemoglobin A1C by 0.1%, and for every 5% weight loss, you can lower your fasting blood sugars by 12%. We also know that fat loss may help to improve ovulation, likely by reducing inflammation and androgen hormones and improving insulin sensitivity and our reproductive hormone signaling. So research shows that a modest weight loss of around 2 to 5% can improve ovulation and regularity of cycles, and losing over 5% is associated with improved fertility, live births, and reduced ovarian cysts. But despite these potential benefits, this advice to just lose weight is kind of especially in the PCOS population. This just kind of like totally ignores the fact that weight loss in this population is significantly harder and also significantly riskier. Because remember, this population is particularly at risk of eating disorders like binge eating. Even the most current PCOS treatment guidelines point out that this increased risk of weight gain isn't sisters' fault. So we really should be approaching lifestyle modifications gently and non-judgmentally. That means focusing on lifestyle modifications as the goal, not weight loss, which research suggests can improve PCOS symptoms like blood glucose levels, cycle regulation, energy levels, and more, which by association helps to support weight loss. So think of weight loss as like the side effect and a symptom of better blood sugar control and a more balanced lifestyle. And even if the weight is gained back or isn't even significant, we can still make improvements to metabolic health without the risk of rebound or disordered eating. It's really just a mindset shift here. So I want to talk about the PCOS diet that really helps to set you up for success. So Googling PCOS diet really takes you to some pretty dark corners of the web. Namely, a lot of pretty extreme diets with not a ton of great research to back them up. The big ones being intermittent fasting, low-calorie keto, paleo, and very strict elimination diets that cut out all dairy and gluten. This is largely not evidence-based. If fasting, low-calorie keto, or paleo may have some benefits for PCOS management, albeit at least in the short run, it's largely because you're restricting a lot of highly processed foods that can spike your blood sugars, or you're creating a severe calorie deficit which can lead to weight loss. But PCOS management is for life. And we know that long-term adherence to diets like this is generally dismal, like around 24%, leaving the other 76% likely in a worse place than where they started. So let's talk about the foods I want you to focus on. Number 1, protein. As usual, protein really is king when we're talking about blood sugars or weight management. Protein is unique because it stimulates insulin, but it stabilizes blood sugars. So when you consume protein with your carbs, it helps to actually clear the glucose from your blood more efficiently. It also slows digestion, which reduces the blood sugar spike and keeps you fuller longer. Protein has also been shown to help increase our satiety hormones and reduce our food cravings for a bunch of naked carbs like candy and chips, which are inherently already elevated in folks with PCOS. Special shout out to our plant-based proteins, which are hunger crushing combo dual citizens on their own with fiber and or healthy fats intact. Research shows that increasing plant protein intake lowers the risk of type 2 diabetes by 36%, and replacing animal protein with plant protein improved A1C, fasting glucose, and fasting insulin levels. So you're going to want to aim for around 20 to 35 grams of protein per meal and around 20 to 30% of your calories from protein per day. Number 2 2, whole food healthy fats. So think about things like avocado, nuts, seeds, and olives. Like fats help slow down digestion, which lowers our blood sugars and our insulin levels. One study found that adding 23 grams of fat to 50 grams of white bread carbs lowered the overall blood sugar response by 29%. And special shout out to the omega-3 fats in things like hemp hearts, walnuts, and fatty fish. These are particularly important for improving fasting insulin, total testosterone, insulin sensitivity, inflammation, plus BMI and body composition. 3 is vegetables and fruits. So veggies and fruits are loaded with antioxidants and phytonutrients that help to reduce the inflammation that cause a lot of PCOS symptoms. Plus, they've got fiber, which helps to slow digestion and stretch the vagus nerve, which improves the blood sugar response, appetite control, inflammation, and weight management. As we discussed in my video on calorie density, fruits and vegetables offer the most nutrition and fullness for their caloric buck. So they really help to tell your brain that you're full even when you are in a calorie deficit. And finally, whole grains. Despite what the anti-carb charlatans will try to make you believe, you don't have to cut carbs out to manage your PCOS. High fiber, lower glycemic index carbs like whole grains have consistently been shown to help improve PCOS outcomes, blood sugars, and insulin sensitivity, likely thanks to the combination of fiber and proteins. Some of my favorite dual citizen hunger crushing combos are things like quinoa, amaranth, and wild rice. Now, what are the foods that you want to limit? Well, the reality is the foods that you want to eat less of for PCOS management are really not that different than the foods that everyone should ideally be mindful of. But we do have some specific research related to PCOS that gives this advice some extra credence in this population. Most notably, naked high GI carbs. In contrast to the low GI high fiber carbs we just talked about, high sugar carbs increases our blood sugar and insulin, which then increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, weight gain, belly fat, and increased inflammatory markers in women with PCOS. And if acne is a symptom of concern, high blood sugars can increase our androgen hormones like testosterone, plus another hormone called IGF-1, both of which increase oil production in the skin. This explains why a 2020 study found that those with acne are 54% more likely to consume high sugar foods than compared to those without acne. Does that mean you can never have a piece of white bread again? Absolutely not! Dressing up your naked carbs with hunger-crushing compounds really helps to stabilize your blood sugar and your appetite, which basically halts the cascade of other PCOS health concerns, including weight gain. Next is advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. So advanced glycation end products are highly reactive pro-inflammatory molecules that come from our body and also from our diet. Women with PCOS already have elevated levels of serum AGEs that are associated with insulin resistance, obesity, and ovulation, and hyperandrogenism. So there is some benefit to reducing the AGEs that we consume, which can ultimately exacerbate all of these symptoms. Generally speaking, the highest level of AGEs per gram of food is found in dry heat ultra-processed foods like chips, cookies, crackers, etc., along with grilled or barbecued high-fat meats, processed meats like bacon, and deep-fried foods like fries. Which brings me to another general category, ultra-processed foods. So in addition to generally being high in AGEs, ultra-processed foods are consistently associated with an increased risk of insulin resistance and obesity. They also generally are rich in high glycemic index naked carbs and lack that beneficial fiber, protein, and healthy fats that we know can help to mediate the blood sugar response and support a healthy gut microbiome. But keep in mind that processed isn't the same as ultra processed. So we're not talking about canned beans here. We're talking about fast food and fried crunchy snacky foods. And speaking of snack foods, number 4 is excessive saturated and trans fats. Research suggests that trans fats and saturated fats can potentially increase insulin resistance, so your body basically has to pump out more insulin while our blood sugars stay high. This results in a significant consistent increase in weight gain over time compared to eating an equivalent amount of unsaturated healthy fats. So saturated fat has also recently been shown to not only trigger inflammation, which can increase heart disease risk in folks with PCOS, but it also tends to increase belly visceral fat and reduce muscle mass compared to unsaturated fats. This visceral belly fat is what can worsen insulin sensitivity over time, which then just perpetuates the PCOS PCOS symptoms, including difficulty losing weight, and the cycle continues. Reducing trans fatty acid intake also improves insulin sensitivity and inflammation in folks with PCOS, which is really another reason why we just generally want to limit these ultra-processed fried foods. And finally, apologies in advance, but alcohol. Excessive alcohol intake has a number of potential mechanisms of harm when it comes to PCOS. So for one, even moderate amounts of alcohol can interfere with the liver's ability to regulate blood sugars and insulin levels, and heavy consumption can deteriorate pancreatic B cell function and glucose homeostasis. Number two, it can also affect the liver's ability to metabolize hormones, which then just exacerbates the imbalance between estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, which then further worsens acne and irregular cycles. And this also may increase the risk of infertility. And finally, obviously, alcohol contains calories that don't necessarily contribute to overall nutrition. So it does increase the risk of weight gain and makes staying in a calorie deficit a lot harder. But what about the frequent recommendation to limit gluten and dairy? So I'm just gonna say it, there is no robust scientific evidence linking gluten intake to PCOS symptoms or PCOS weight gain. And in a lot of cases, it actually might be detrimental. Gluten-free diets are consistently shown to have lower nutritional value compared to traditional diets. Gluten-free alternatives are generally more processed, have less fiber, and are higher on the glycemic index, which ultimately makes them less satiating and easier to overeat. If people do lose weight or get symptom relief on a gluten-free diet, it's likely because A, they end up cutting down on high sugar pastries, cakes, and other desserts by nature of the limitation, which then can improve insulin sensitivity and create a calorie deficit. And or B, they may actually have non-celiac gluten intolerance, so cutting out gluten may help to lower systemic inflammation. But generally speaking, if you are not celiac or have gluten intolerance, a gluten-free diet would not be advised. Now, the case for against dairy is a little bit more evidence-based, but there are a lot of caveats to that advice. So for one, if acne is a concern, there is some evidence that dairy consumption is linked to an increased risk of acne, likely again related to the production of that IGF-1, which can boost oil secretion. But generally, this seems to be highly individualized and not everybody reacts the same. As for blood sugars and fertility, recent research has actually found that dairy can help to reduce the risk of developing type 2 diabetes and has not been found to have a negative impact on ovulation. In fact, data from the Nurses Health Cohort Study 2 was used to develop an ideal fertility diet, which consisted of low intake of animal protein, high vegetable protein, high iron content, MUFAs, low GI carbs, and consumption of high-fat dairy products. Yes, high-fat dairy. Research has linked low or non-fat dairy to increased risk of an ovulatory infertility, but full-fat dairy actually reduced that risk. When it comes to weight loss specifically, one large review found that high-fat dairy was actually associated with low risk of obesity, particularly as it related to high-protein dairy like yogurt, which basically is pretty consistently associated to reduce the risk of weight gain. Obviously, if you're allergic or lactose intolerant, or you do find that dairy flares your acne, then absolutely find an alternative, but cutting it out completely can actually eliminate an amazing tool for weight loss and blood sugar management. Just keep in mind that aged cheeses like Parmesan contains more dietary AGEs in comparison to mozzarella, cottage cheese, 2% milk cheddar, and yogurt. Basically, the wetter the better.
That's what she said.
But food is just one piece of the PCOS management puzzle, so I really did want to share some other important lifestyle additions to help you improve your chances of meeting your goal without deprivation or denial. Number one, exercise. Exercise helps to lower inflammation in women with PCOS and significantly improves insulin sensitivity by helping to shunt glucose into our muscle cells. So research has found that when participants went for just a 30-minute walk after eating a meal consisting of 70 grams of carbs from a high sugar cereal, it reduced the peak blood sugar by 13%. Even just a little 15-minute exercise snack can help. Number two, consider your supplement routine. So adding in some supplements can actually be a great evidence-based, gentle, non-diet way to improve PCOS symptoms. The most important being inositol. So inositol is pretty much a non-negotiable in my opinion, as it's consistently been shown to help lower androgens, glucose, insulin, cholesterol, improve menstrual regularity and body weight, just as well as the gold standard metformin. In some studies, it actually performs better than metformin. Now, quick little tip here, when choosing an inositol supplement, you want to go for around a 40-to-1 ratio of around 2,000 milligrams of myo-inositol to 50 milligrams of D-chiro-inositol. Other potential supplements to consider include omega-3s, as we discussed, berberine, aka nature's Ozempic, thanks to its blood sugar lowering and weight loss supporting effect, as I discussed in a lot more detail in my video right here, chromium picolinate, which may help to support weight management and reduce fasting insulin and free testosterone in folks with PCOS, zinc, which has been shown to improve insulin resistance and reduce free testosterone, cinnamon, which may help to reduce blood sugars, though as we discussed in my video on blood sugar tools, you need a lot of it to see the results. Probiotics, which may help to reduce androgens, improve insulin sensitivity, and support weight loss. And finally, protein powder. Getting protein at every meal and most snacks is one of the most effective gentle nutrition PCOS strategies, so a good quality protein can be a helpful tool. Finally, a last little takeaway is to focus on adequate sleep and stress management. So research suggests that the HPA axis that regulates stress hormones is inherently disrupted in folks with PCOS, which increases cortisol production, which then further perpetuates food cravings, insulin resistance, and hormonal dysregulation. Not getting enough sleep is consistently associated with insulin resistance and obesity, especially that dangerous belly fat. So focusing on good sleep and stress hygiene should really be at the top of everybody's list. In conclusion, folks, while reducing body fat may help to mitigate the cascade of PCOS symptoms by improving insulin sensitivity, focusing solely on the end goal of weight loss over the lifestyle behaviors and additive actions that we just discussed may do more harm than good. And this is just scratching the surface here. This video is already way too long, but there is so much to cover. But if you've got any more questions, definitely leave me a comment below, and I will see you next time on Abby's Kitchen. Bye!